Hello everybody, I just wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas and just recap on a little bit of a painting that I've done recently, just to sort of give you up to speed with my last painting really of 2024. And this is a painting I've done of Sewerby Hall. Really it's taken from a photograph that we did on one of the one-day workshops, which were really successful this year. The ones that were working out of Bridlington, where we went out for the day, came in back into the gallery at Bridlington here, and then did a painting based on our afternoon or morning endeavours with the sketching. And this was a painting I did of Sewerby Hall. So the painting was very much about capturing the mood and atmosphere into the landscape, and as you can see, the backdrop was Sewerby Hall, and this was the photograph that I sort of used as my reference point really, which was in the gardens, in the wall gardens, looking across to the gardener's cottage with the greenhouses on the right hand side. It was an early morning scene, so the light was quite low, capturing some really strong shadows, and I really quite like the feeling of colour and light. And so what we did here was to firstly sketch the scene, and I really wanted to sort of utilise a key colour in this, and hence why I used these reds in this foreground, which was a really big strength to this picture, main centre. And what I've started really was to wet the picture, wet the surface, develop a sky onto a moist surface of paper using sort of ultramarine and a little bit of cobalt as a starting point. Then I brought that wetness through the painting into the sort of the foreground, and then let it move towards to the dry, and then I dropped in this strong colour of red really, which was cadmium red with a little bit of cadmium orange, and that was really sort of the central part really, which I dropped in quite strongly. I let that sort of diffuse with a few darks intermittent in there, and then once that had established itself and I'd let it dry for a little period, what I did then was to sort of work the trees in by putting some light simple sort of dry washes onto the paper, and then as it came towards the heart of the trees, I just added darks into there, made it really quite strong, had a crisp edge onto the buildings and such like, all dark. And then as it was moving through on that moist surface, I then added some sharp edges just for a few feeling of the trees. I then brought that down into the picture here by putting the strong hedge along the actual figures are sort of silhouetted against. I then brought in to the foreground using a range of greens. The greens really were sort of ultramarine, yellow ochre, and lemon yellow that I utilised to get some greens. And then even actually, just to try and capture a feeling of some of the bits of foliage, I used a tool like this really, just to scratch on the surface, just gently, while it was on the damp, just to give a feeling of a little bit more of a textured surface to some of the stems of the plants and such like, which is another little technique which seemed to work quite well. I then polished off really was to then add the detail to the buildings separately as a sort of a third stage, with the figures finally in place, and it was all done rather quite quickly actually. And I think that ability to paint it quite quickly has just meant that it kept it fresh, and I was really quite pleased with it really. So this is one that I'm going to incorporate a number of this feeling of mood and atmosphere in my future paintings, and I'm working up a little course on buildings, atmospheric buildings, and so we'll have a series of some of these. This is like one I've got here, which is one of Rome in an atmospheric sort of setting really, with the blending the colours. And I've also got another one, I've got a series of these now, that's one of Venice with again mood and atmosphere, and using sort of milky washes as well to capture a sense of mood and atmosphere. So it was one to finish off on, and in the end I was quite pleased with it. And so once again, with the mount, this becomes the finished picture, which I was quite pleased with. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who's been with me over the course of the year. I mean, it's been quite an exciting year for me in so many different ways, and I hope you've enjoyed the journey you've been with us. I mean, just on the WhatsApp, we've got over 100 people that are interacting with us on the WhatsApp, so we've got really quite a community of artists from all over really now. And so I want to also say it's been a great fun and privilege with the North Yorkshire Art School at Scarborough, teaching through their network of venues, and also here at Bempton. So it's been really exciting. So we've got more planned for 2025 in many different ways, and I'll talk about that in the fullness. But in the meantime, I just want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.